Hi everyone, it's Emily with MJ Cosmetics. Thank you so much for joining me again today. I know it's like evening time by the time I'm releasing this to all of you, but it is a beautiful Friday morning, and I'm really excited to share some things with you. Today's tutorial is all about what tools you need and how to use them. In today's cosmetics industry, oh my goodness, there are so many different kinds of brushes and sponges and beauty gadgets that are always being advertised and marketed that we need. So I wanted to break down some of those things into very basic categories for you so that you don't feel like you have to spend hundreds of dollars on all of these things to achieve the look that you want on a daily basis. So I'm going to go ahead and do a full look for everyone today using what I believe to be the basics that you would need in your own makeup kit. So I'm going to start with brushes. I'll go through all of the tools first, and then I'm going to show you how to use each one. So I am very big on brushes. I mention that in all of my videos, and I tell my clients the same thing. Brushes are your tools to creating your own personal masterpiece. And without the right tools, it's going to be a lot more difficult than it has to be. So a few brushes that I think are really essential for you to have is a big fluffy powder brush. I didn't clean this yet today, so forgive me. But a big fluffy powder brush. So this is basically going to be used for the application of loose or pressed powders. You can get these as big as you want, but I think that this is an absolute perfect size because it still allows you to dust powder underneath the eye area, and it's plenty big to distribute powder all over the face and the neck. So this is a really, really great brush. A lot of companies have really great brushes. My two favorite brush companies are MAC and Morphe. Morphe brush has so many brushes, hundreds of brushes. They go by type, they go by whether they're synthetic or not. So go to Morphe.com, I think it's MorpheCosmetics.com, and look at all of their brushes and find one that's right for you. So another face brush that I love is this brush. This is a Morphe brush number E3, and I love the tapered tip. Here's why. It's really great for applying bronzer because you can simply press it against the skin and it gives you just the right angle to apply your bronzer or your blush. And then I use the very tip of it to apply my highlight. Okay, so this is a really great multi-use, multi-purpose, I should say, brush as well for both bronzing and highlighting. Now we're going to move on to eyes. So 4 brushes for the eyes should be able to give you everything that you need, regardless of whether you're working with either a cream or a powder. So the first one is this brush. This is pretty fluffy. It's got a tapered tip. So you're going to be able to get a lot of product onto this brush. And this is a great brush for all over application and for blending, okay? Then what I would say is its sister brush. It's a little bit smaller. It has fewer fibers in it. And so this is a really great brush to use for more definition in the crease because it is a lot smaller. So it's going to allow you to do more of kind of that definition work. Okay, then these two little guys are really, really amazing brushes. So first, this one, and I'm going to hold this up close for you guys. So this is a little tiny shader brush. So this allows for very defined eye work. So I love using this when I want to do like a cut crease, where I just want a little tiny area of the eye to be really well defined. I also love using this for creating a smoky eye underneath and for blending out my eyeliner on my top lid. So again, this is really, in my opinion, a must-have to creating all sorts of different eye looks. Then last but not least is my angled brush. So this can be used for both defining the eyebrows and getting on the eyeliner. So you can use it with either creams or powders, doesn't matter, but having a nice fine angle brush is super important. The other thing you want to look for when shopping for an angle brush is to make sure that the tip is really thin. I haven't had breakfast yet, so I'm a little bit shaky this morning. But you can see how thin it is at the very tip. If you find an angle brush that is really dense at the tip, imagine what it's going to do when you try to apply a nice, thin, tight line of your eyeliner. Or if you're using some kind of a pomade to apply it to the brow. The thicker the tip, the more product, and the thicker the line is going to be as well. So pick a nice thin one. Okay, so those are brushes. Now, for the face, there is one main tool that I recommend everybody have. I've been using this tool for almost 10 years. I can't remember when it first came out, but that's when I started using mine. And it has multiple uses, which I'm going to show you today. So this is what a lot of people call my little egg sponge. I'm sorry, you guys. I have to reject that call. It's my little egg sponge, otherwise known as my beauty blender. This is such an amazing tool to use to apply not only your foundation, but it's great to apply your contour and your highlight, to apply your powder. You can even apply your blush and your bronzer with this product. So it makes application super easy. It makes your application foolproof, and it also gives you a beautiful, flawless airbrush-like finish to the skin. So I am first going to start how I always start, which is doing my eyes first. Because again, if you do your eyes, if you do your eyeshadow before you do anything else, then you aren't going to have to do all of that cleanup afterwards. So I'm going to, again, begin by priming my lid, and I am using the eye primer that I always use, which is my Urban Decay Eyeshadow Primer Potion in Eden. They have lots of different colors and formulas of their primer potions. I personally always choose Eden because it has a really great ability to cancel out any discoloration that I have on my lid. And the fact is most of us have some kind of discoloration on our lid. So even if you have a day, let's say, where you don't have the time or you don't necessarily want to apply eyeshadow, then you don't have to. Just set it with a translucent powder, but it gives you really great coverage, and obviously it's going to do its job in maintaining the durability of the color that you put on your lid. Okay, so I am going to pick up my Younique Moodstruck Addiction palette, number 1. I've used this a lot before. For today's look, I'm going to do kind of a really dark smoky eye because that's just the kind of mood that I'm in today. So I'm going to start with the darkest color, which is like a really dark chocolate. So I'm going to use my thicker shadow brush because I'm wanting to apply a lot of pigment to a rather large surface area. So I'm going to load up my brush with this shadow, and I'm just going to start by pressing it into that primer where I want it, and then I can start blending it out slightly. Sorry guys, I need to turn to the side so you can see a little bit better. So again, this brush does a great job of getting that pigment where I want it because it holds a lot of product, which is the whole purpose of this brush. Okay, so you can see how much pigment it put on my lid, which in turn is just going to cut down on the time that I spend putting my shadow on. Okay. So I'm just going to keep kind of blending this out. For this specific eye look, I do want to let you guys know that for the darkest color, I'm not going to bring it above the crease line, because for this specific look, again, I want all of the, basically I want it to graduate from the darkest color to the lightest color. And there's something about this specific eye look that just makes me feel really chic and just really fall ready, I guess. I don't know. I don't ever wear this look any other time of year but in the fall, and every time I have my eyes done like this, I just pull my shoulders back a little bit more and walk a little bit taller. Okay, so for my crease color, I'm going to switch out to the sister of that brush, which is just a little bit less dense and it's a little bit smaller. And I'm going to take this color here, which is a nice kind of milk chocolate or cocoa brown. And I'm going to start by putting it into my crease and blending up toward the brow bone. And then I'm going to blend it up and outward beyond my crease line. Not a lot, but just a little bit, so that I add just a little bit more definition to the hollow of my eye. And I am going to bring it all the way into the tear duct. I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of highlighting around the tear duct area like I usually do, because this is just supposed to be kind of a dark, smoky eye look. Okay, so this brush blends just as nicely as the other one. It's just smaller so that you can do a little bit more defined work because you have fewer bristles. Okay, so we'll real quickly do that to the other eye. So again, you can allow this brush really to do all of the work for you, because you simply set it in your crease and all you're doing is moving the color around. So now we'll come up above and beyond our crease line just a little bit and start blending out that color so that you're not just left with like this dark eye socket. That's not the look we're going for. And again, bring it all the way straight down into the tear duct area and then ever so gently start blending it out. Brushes make everything so much easier, and you know, out of all of the women that I have taught over the years, that is probably one of the areas where they have been lacking, is they just have been really questioning what tools they're supposed to use. Because, I mean, come on, when you walk into a place like Ulta or Sephora, you are just bombarded with so many options. There's like 25 foundation brushes. There's like 25 to 30 eye brushes. How are you supposed to know what to use for different things? And what do you really actually need? And just like with so many other cosmetics products, people end up spending hundreds of dollars, and then they get home and they feel so guilty about spending all of this money on things that they know they're not actually going to use because they don't know what to do with most of it. Okay, so those are two brushes down that I've used. So now I'm going to use my smallest eyeshadow shading brush, and I'm going to mix the two darkest colors together, and I'm going to go right back into the crease, and I'm just going to darken this outer area and the outer crease just a little bit to make it a little bit more three-dimensional. This isn't really a cut crease. I'm not going to get that defined and that crazy today because that's just not the specific look that I'm going for today. So I'm only going to bring it up a little ways just to, again, add some more definition to my crease line and my outer lid. Okay, so I'm going to reload it with my eyeshadow and do the same thing to the other side. I hope this really helps you guys because I am so with you. I obviously have a lot of brushes just because this is what I do professionally. And I don't always just do, lessons and weddings and things like that, but there's a lot of other makeup application jobs that I have to do throughout my year. And each brush serves its own individual purpose. And so that's why I have a lot. But for most people, you just don't need a container full of all of these different brushes. Again, you need like 5 to 6 brushes and you'll be good to go. Okay, so as most of you know, again, now is the time when I'm going to put the rest of my face on. And then once I have my foundation on, I will know at that point what else I need to add. So I'm going to show you how to use your beauty buds, your beauty blenders, whatever it is that you use. I'm going to do a really quick comparison for you guys, however. I want to show you the differences in some of these products because Beauty Blender, obviously, they have a trademark on the actual materials that they use to create the Beauty Blender, and there have been a lot of knockoffs, okay? So the first thing I want you to recognize is the size. So both of these sponges have been soaked in water, which is how you're supposed to use them before you dip them into your liquid foundation or your creams. And the Beauty Blender is almost twice the size as the other sponge, I'll call it. The next thing is the density. So the less dense the sponge is, the more pliable it's going to become, which means it's going to give you more freedom in where and how you apply your product. So the Beauty Blender sponge is not very dense. It has a very microfiber type feel to it, and it's very squishy. So that means I can get it in absolutely anywhere I want to, right? And it's very soft against the face. The other sponge is very dense. I mean, I have to really squeeze down on it to make it the same size as my Beauty Blender, okay? So it's very thick, and it's a lot harder and a lot more dense, which means it's gonna be pretty hard for me to smash it down and get it to where I need to go. So that's why I always recommend the actual Beauty Blender sponge ahead of the knockoffs. Now, obviously, some of the other sponges, not all of them, but some of the other sponges can literally cost you about half as much as a Beauty Blender. These are $19.99, I believe, something like that. And you can get some of the other sponges for around $10. So if that's all that you can have fit into your budget, that's totally fine. Just work with it. So again, you want to make sure that they're nice and wet. And I'm going to take my favorite liquid foundation that I use my Beauty Blender for, which is my MAC Studio Fix liquid foundation. Okay, so how you do this is I always put the product first on the back of my hand, because if there's one thing that I do not like, it's wasting product, because this stuff is not cheap. Okay, whoops, I got a little bit more than I needed. Okay, so first I apply my foundation around my cheek area and then I start blending it out. That's usually where most of us require more coverage. Okay, so I'm going to dip the big part of my Beauty Blender right into my product. Now, instead of wiping it on your face, you want to press the product into the skin. Okay. And what this does for you is it literally makes your foundation like a second skin. When you wipe product across your skin, you're going to leave marks. You're not pressing the product into the fine lines. You're not pressing the product into the pores. And so it's basically just going to sit on the very surface of your skin, which is not going to give you the most natural appearance. So you can see already, it doesn't take very long to apply. And it's just super, super easy. So always make sure to get your ears, bring it down onto the neck. How far you bring it down onto the neck, honestly, depends more on how well you were able to match your foundation to your own skin tone and skin color. If you can find an exact match, you don't need to bring it down too far. If you're warming up your skin tone and using a foundation shade that is 1 to 2 shades darker than your skin, then blend it all the way down onto the chest so that it looks like it is your skin. Okay, so I've gotten basically all of the large surface areas with the big part of the sponge. So for the under eye area and around my nose, I'm going to flip it around and I'm going to use the tip, and we are going to do the exact same thing and get right up into the tear duct area. It's also nice on the end if you're not able to get a nice clean line with your eyeshadow. That is where you can use your beauty blender with some foundation on it and make a nice clean surface area at the end of your eye. Okay, get into the nostril area. Put a little bit more on here for the other side. Another great tip that I give people with these two, I just don't have my product out. I might be able to reach for it, but after you apply your foundation, I'm going to go in and I'm going to start doing some contouring. And actually, I do have it up there. Good. So before I do that, I'm going to spray my sponge with some setting spray, which is just going to add to the longevity of the product that I'm going to be using. So let's see, I'm going to use, I have like 4 of them. Since we're using a lot of my favorite MAC products today, we'll go ahead and use the MAC Prep and Prime Fix Plus Spray. So I'm just going to simply spray some of this all over my sponge, and I'm going to start doing some contouring using my creams. But I need to grab my contouring stuff first. I'll be right back. I know it's over here. I can grab it really quickly. Okay. So I'm going to use this I used this really quickly yesterday, so don't judge because it's a little messy. But I'm going to use my Anastasia contour cream palette. So the first area that I'm going to contour is under the eyes, down the bridge of my nose, and on my chin. So I use 2 colors, and I'm using the pointy end. I'm going to put that right in my palette. And I'm going to do my under eye area. Again, bringing it down to where the nostril is, and then bringing it up on top of the cheekbone. Okay, and then I will do the other side. Getting all the way into the tear duct. Now, I'm going to squish my sponge while I'm here because I don't want to get a high... Okay, sorry everyone. I'm having a wonderful conversation with a really great friend. And my friends and family come before anything else. So, I'm just going to continue to use my little sponge to highlight my face. So now I'm going to do the bridge of my nose. So again, because this is nice and pliable, I can smash it down and highlight just the bridge of my nose, and then right above my brow, my cupid's bow a little bit, my chin, and then right above my jawline. Okay, then I don't have to rinse out my sponge. I'm going to use this same sponge, and I'm going to use the pointy tip to do my shading. Okay, so as always with my shading, I dab it off on the back of my hand to make sure that I'm not getting too much product, because these sponges, wet or not, they do pick up a lot of product. So I'm going to very lightly apply my shading colors where they need to be, which is right below the cheekbone. Again, if you're wanting to change the shape of your face and bring your cheekbones up, feel free to do so. I'm gonna go, this is just really basic contouring that I'm doing right now. If you guys want to learn in person how to contour differently to your own specific face shape, just drop a message below and we will figure out a way to do that for you, whether it's in person or Skype or whatever. Okay, and then I always bring that down just barely to meet where I have it on my cheekbone. Okay, so then this is the tricky part. I've expressed this before, but when you add your shade color to the side of the bridge of your nose, please don't make that area too thick. So I'm using the very, very tip of my sponge to apply this with, and I'm very lightly gonna drag it down the bridge of my nose, and I bring it right up to meet the edge of my brow, okay? I have a pretty good nose, but it is a little bit wider at the bottom, which is totally fine, but I just like to make it a little bit smaller. Okay, then I'm also gonna bring it down around my jawline. Again, if you don't want to do all of these steps with your contouring, you definitely don't have to. I'm really just wanting to show the versatility of these sponges and how it just makes your life so much easier. Okay, so then to blend out our contour, I have a little bit of foundation already here, which is actually going to really, really help in your blending. So you always want to blend out your highlight first. Okay, again, I can really squish that sponge to get into the tight areas. Okay, and then you can start blending out where you added the shading on your face. And since it has a little bit of foundation left, it's going to make it that much more natural looking so that those colors are really well blended. The last thing that you want to have happen is to step outside your door and for people to be able to see all of the areas where you contoured, because that is not the purpose of contouring, people. You do not want it to be detectable. Okay, so this is where the tricky part comes in. I can't use this end because this is what I use to apply it with. So I'm basically going to bend this in half, check it out, and then I have a nice clean area where I can blend out the contour on my nose. So I'm gonna do this on both sides, okay? And then I'm gonna flip it over and I'm gonna go right down the center because that is where those lines are going to be the most prominent and the most obvious. And I do not want people to be able to see that. Okay, so I've done my nose. Now we'll do the jaw area. And I think that's it. So you see, we have now applied 3 different products with the same sponge. Okay, so now the last thing you have to do is to set all of the creams on your face. I'm not gonna use a brush, however, I'm gonna use my sponge, okay? So I'm gonna take my loose translucent powder. My loose translucent powder of choice is my RCMA No Color Powder. I'm going to dip my sponge. It doesn't matter if you have a little bit of color because you are putting so much product on this sponge, the pigment is not going to come through. So I start underneath the eye area and I very lightly start applying it so that I'm not pressing the powder back into the sponge, but instead I'm pressing the powder onto my skin. And I'm going to bake my under eye area. I always bake my under eye area because this is the area that I have most problems with in terms of my concealer getting into my fine lines and wrinkles and getting too hot. I'm also going to apply it down the bridge of my nose because I do tend to get a little bit oily there, and this is going to keep me nice and matte all day long. I apply a little bit to the chin. And then just to help with my contouring, I'm going to apply a little bit to my upper jawline. Okay? So, it's so pretty. Just kidding. But it will be. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to use your little angle brush. Okay, so, excuse me, I have a terrible cold today. I'm using the same eyeliner that I've used in all of my videos because it's my absolute favorite. It's my MAC Pro Fluid Line in Black Track. I'm using black today because I have a very dark eye, and if I were to use brown, it would not show. So I make sure that both sides of my angle brush are loaded with product. The first thing is I'm going to get underneath my lower lash line, just to make sure that I'm able to get the definition around my lashes that I want, okay? The second thing I'm going to do, and I forgot my powder puff, but that's okay, is I'm going to make a nice small wing on this side. Oh my goodness, you guys, getting older just sucks. I need like bifocals. I need a huge mirror just so that I can see. Okay, here we go. I can do this. Okay, so I start by laying the pointy tip of the brush toward my lash line. I'm just going to set this here first, and it's going to make that mark. Then I'm going to very lightly, with light, tiny little brush strokes with the tip, drag it up to create my point. Okay, I think you guys can all see that. Then I'm going to turn my brush around so it's now facing this way. I'm going to match it up with the edge of that line, and I'm going to draw a straight line onto my lid. And then I'm simply filling it in between where that line is and my lash line so that it's nice and dark. And then I'll bring it all the way across my lid. Okay, so it just makes creating a nice winged liner look so effortless and so flawless, okay? If you try this with any other brush, you may be able to get it down, but it's just going to make your job more difficult than it needs to be. And I always, for this look, I always bring my liner all the way in to my tear duct for more definition here. If I end up having to stop this video, guys, I'm sorry. My little guy is taking a nap. And after my last video of him being in the room, I realized it is just absolutely impossible to make a good video with him in here. So I may have to pause here in a minute. But that is life. That's the life of a mom, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Okay. Oh my goodness. So the only thing is I'm getting a little powder in my eyeball. Okay. Beauty is pain, folks. It's just the truth. Okay, so I'm going to do the other side. I have to look in my mirror for this side. Sorry, y'all. So I'm going to make my little wing out to the side. But this brush is making it so easy. And then I'm going to drag it onto the lid. Again, if you guys want to learn how to do this in person or through Skype or whatever, then please just drop a comment below, because that's something that I offer on a regular basis. I just started doing lessons via Skype so that I have the opportunity to teach people wherever they are in the country or anywhere in the world. It's such a cool thing to be able to do. Okay, I'm going to get this right in the corner. I like to extend my inner corner a little bit too. It just gives my eyes the appearance of being a little bit wider this way. So it's kind of a cool little trick. Okay, and then before I can do my lower lash line, I need to get rid of all of this powder on my face. So I'm going to use my nice fluffy brush. And I'm just going to whisk it away. Now that I have some good powder on my brush, though, I am going to blend it into the rest of my face so that I don't have like this stark contrast, which is something that it will create if you don't blend it in really well. But you can see the huge difference that that made with my overall look. And it doesn't matter now what I do throughout my day. I will come home this afternoon, I will work out, I will sweat because it's a tough one today, and my makeup will still look amazing. Not like it has to, but you know what? Some of us like to be able to go out with girlfriends, go on a date after we go to the gym, and you're still gonna look absolutely amazing when you're done. Okay. So that's what I use this for. Really, really important tool. So now I'm going to do the tight lining on my lower lash line just really quickly. I've already done my brows. And I don't think I will ever do a brow tutorial on here, at least, just because I like to give individual brow lessons because, number one, people's individual comfort level is very different from one person to the next. And so I like giving people that individualized instruction when it comes to something like the brows. Okay, there we go. So we are coming right along and we're almost finished. So I'm going to go back to my pointed shadow brush, and I'm going to create a smoky eye on top of that eyeliner because honestly, I think it looks just a little weird leaving it this way. You've got to add some shadow and definition on the top. So I'm going to start with my dark liner, and I'm just going to go in the top here, right on top of where I added my winged liner. And again, I'm just going to go over that and kind of smudge it out a little bit. And see that nice tight corner that it just created by doing that. So instead of just having like this winged black liner, you have a nice defined outer crease line. So we'll do that on this side as well. And you would not be able to do this using any other kind of brush. Okay, and I always bring it in so that, again, everything is blended. Blending is everything, ladies. So once you've mastered that, you can do anything. Okay, since I don't have my rag, I'm using my hand. Then I'm going to use the Cocoa Brown, which is several shades lighter, to add a little bit of definition to my lower lash line, because again, I never like just wearing black or brown liner. I always add shadow to the bottom because it kind of marries the two together and just really gives you a nice finished look. Okay. So huge difference between this eye and this eye. This eye looks so much smaller than this one does, and all I've done is add a little bit of shadow to my lower lash line. So everything I do has a purpose, and every little step is going to get you closer and closer to achieving the look that you want. And this is how it's done. Okay, big difference. Okay, then I'm going to use the same brush. I dusted it off a little bit, and I'm going to do just a tiny, tiny highlight right in the corner. Again, I'm not wanting this whole area to be highlighted because that's just not the look that I'm doing today, and it would really kind of just give the wrong appearance with what it is that I'm trying to accomplish here. So just the very inner corner, but it's a very small surface area, so I have to use a small brush. Then I'm gonna go right underneath my eyebrow just to add a little shine, which is going to, again, create a little bit of definition to my brow. Okay. All right. So to finish off this look, I do need to add my bronzer, my blush, and my highlighter. So that is where this brush comes in, okay? I always want, you want to highlight, you want to add the lighter colors before you add the darker colors, unless you want to take the time to clean off your brush in between. So I'm going to show this highlighter to you guys. I have two highlighters that I use every single day. The first one is the Balm Mary Luminizer. I've used that for years. But I just recently picked this one up. This is the Becca Shimmering Skin Perfector Pressed Powder in Opal. This has mega shine, ladies. This is a really awesome product. So I lay this down on the tip, and I'm only putting highlighter on the very tip of the brush. and it's going to apply perfectly to the top of the cheekbone. You guys can see that highlight there. I bring it up to the corner of the eye, and then I'm going to bring it up and over the brow, right in the middle of the forehead, down the bridge of the nose just a little bit, and then I can dust a little bit on the very tip of the nose. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. So this adding a nice high sheen highlighter really helps bring back the multi-dimensional effect to the face, because obviously the first thing you're going to notice is when you apply your foundation, your face becomes two-dimensional, and that's not pretty. So I'm going to take my finger and just put a little bit on my Cupid's bow to highlight my upper lip. Now I can take my bronzer, and instead of putting the tip of my brush in my bronzer, I'm going to lay it flat, and I'm going to use both colors, and I'm basically applying bronzer to the top of where I applied my contour. Okay, and then I'm going to bring it up onto my forehead just slightly. Same thing on the other side, making sure that both sides are nice and even, obviously. And then you can kind of start mixing the lines, because obviously you don't want just like this dark spot on your cheeks and on your forehead. And then down slightly onto the jawline. Okay. Beautiful. Okay. I can use, again, the same brush now for product number 3, which is my blush. So I'm going to lay it on its side so that you can see you can see the shape of it. It only got the duo fibers on the top. And then I'm going to very lightly apply this product to my cheeks where it should be according to my own face shape. Which, if I haven't said this before, if you have really prominent apples like I do, I have big apples on my cheeks, you want to apply your blush to the lower portion of the cheek and then blend it up toward the hairline. If you don't have prominent apples to your cheeks and they're a lot smaller, then you do want to apply your blush right to the apple, and you don't want to be blending it all the way to the temple. You only want to blend it out to about here. It should have the most concentration of color on the apple and get lighter and lighter as you go. Okay, so that's kind of a basic rule of thumb to how to apply blush for your own specific face shape. Blush, bronzer, contouring should never be done in the exact same places regardless of your face shape. And that's something that I see happen a lot, is people will wear their blush the same as everybody else, even though the shape of their face is completely different. So then I like to go back with my fluffy brush that, as you can see, still has a little bit of that loose translucent powder on it. And I'm just very lightly and gently going to blend that blush into the bronzer. Because that's another thing you don't want to see, is like this heavy stripe of color across the cheek, because we've been there in the 80s and we never want to go back. Okay, so I did not bring lip color. That's one thing I forgot, but please don't leave the house without your lips on. I am going to spray my face. I have several setting sprays, but my face just feels really, really dry today because it's so cold outside today. So I picked this up after I read about it in a magazine, and I really do love this when my skin needs a lot of extra hydration. So this is by Pixi. This is the only Pixi product I think that I have, but it's called Pixi Skin Treats. It's their Glow Mist with propolis and argan oil. So you have to shake it up because there literally is argan oil sitting on the very top. And then you just spray the entire face. I spray a lot because, oh my gosh, it feels so good. I'm so dry. And then you can take, again, your beauty blender where the powder is not, and you roll it across the skin. This is a trick I learned years and years ago, and I've shared it with all of my other makeup artist friends, and they use it this way now every day too. What this does is it presses all of those fine hairs and peach fuzz that you may have back down onto the skin, and it also removes powder residue from the peach fuzz on your face as well. And so you have a perfectly natural satin finish left to your skin, and your makeup is set all day. So I hope that you guys picked up some really great advice on what tools to use and add to your kit, and what tools you don't need to be spending extra money on, and how to use them. So I hope you enjoyed this look as well that I gave you guys today. Again, if you want to set up an appointment with me for a customized personal lesson, regardless of if you live close to me or not, we can always do Skype, or I can come to wherever you are and teach you how to do all of these things. If you have questions, if you have tutorial video ideas for me, just please feel free to comment below. Until next time, be beautiful and live beautifully.